Okay, this is a supplemental lesson for our overall bigger project based on Gestalt theory and the 5 principles that we studied for it. This one is specifically for the principal figure ground and those students who really struggled to successfully generate the final projects needed to express the figure ground relationship. So first, I just wanted to review a few things and talk about it a little bit in depth further. And this is specifically geared towards the state standard to examine and articulate the effects of context on visual imagery. A lot of times, the figure ground is ignored and not really understood the relationship between the positive and negative space in a composition. They both are just as important. So positive space is any part of the composition that serves as the main focus of attention. So that's your main object, the main thing you are talking about. A lot of times artists, especially beginning artists, can ignore what's called the negative space. And that's what's behind your object. Sometimes that's even more important than your main part of your picture that you're talking about. It all comes together to express the Gestalt theory, which is the overall feel of the whole picture. Is it balanced? If you ignore that negative space, you're not going to have a really good balanced composition and therefore not really engage your audience. So just a quick picture here. This front here of the Statue of Liberty, that would be considered your positive space. That's your main image. Now look, it's all black. It doesn't have really any detail. The negative space is where all the detail and the color comes in, and it more defines the picture than that positive space. So now we're going to jump over and do the little quick assignment that I have for the students who are really struggling with this and walk you through just a different way to look at it. Okay, and so for this one, as you can see, we're using Google Draw again. And I have this assignment designed to help you feel out the relationship between figure ground. You're going to make 9 little different compositions here, one at 30% figure, one at 50% figure, and then one will be at 90% figure. Now, what I'm going to do next is walk you through a couple of them, and you can do them along with me. I go more in depth on how to use Google Draw, and you can work alongside me. And then after that, you will take over and create your own compositions that communicate the percentages here of figure ground. Remember, this is feeling out visually how they balance each other. What has more ground, what has more figure. And that you're going to have to feel out how much that black overpowers the white versus how much it doesn't. So it's not a mathematically precise equation on this. A lot of this is a visual puzzle that you're going to put together. And for this one, you're really going to have to break it down visually to the 30, 50, and 90%. So that means you're going to look at it and decide, does this have more black or more white? For the 50%, this one, it's really going to be based on visually, not a matter of how much black or white you put in there. You can't look at it and say, all right, I have 3 black things and I need to have 3 white things. It doesn't work like that. It's a visual comparison. So it's kind of like looking at it and feeling, all right, does this have more black or more white? What is more dominant? So to balance it, you may have technically less black shapes, but remember, black is more dominant. It's going to stand out more. It gives more hierarchy. So you may actually technically have less black than white shapes, but it balances visually. It's kind of the same with all of them. The 90% should be pretty easy visually, so should the 30% just make it mostly black or mostly white. Now in the assignment I have, you have to have 2 predominantly black, 1 predominantly white. It's fine if you do 2 predominantly white and 1 predominantly black, just as long as you try both at some point. Obviously, the 50-50 is just going to be all the same because there is no opposite to that. So I wanted to walk you through some of the things that you can do. I can't go through and give a demo on every single one because there are no restrictions for this. You can use any shapes, any lines. So there are so many different variations you can do. It's just going to be a matter of getting in there, starting to make your shapes, be complicated with them, try new things. So for this 30% up here, remember for this, any two of these somewhere, you've got to use one of the drawing tools. This lower left one for the 90% was used with the polygon drawing tool up here, or select line, or whatever it's called in here. Up here, this top one, the 30%, I combined the two. I made shapes and then drew in these ones that go real close with the poly line. So what I mean by that, I made my triangles here, and to make a triangle is just up here in the shapes tool. And there's a couple different kinds of triangles you can use. So I made my triangles and I had them overlap, did not give them a border so that it looks like just one continuous shape here instead of a bunch of different separate shapes. Once I did that, these weren't here, and just kind of looked like that. And then I went back in because I felt it needed a little bit more black to look more 30% than a 90%. So you could go up here, grab the triangle tool and try to create those to fit in there, but it was a lot easier to go in and use the polyline tool, and zooming in real tight helped. One thing I wanted to show you a difference of, so click once, click again, get it pretty close, and click around till it fills in there, but you still have a thin white line in there. Now what I want you to notice the difference of, the triangle right here has a bit of a rounded edge and this one doesn't. How you do that, you take your stroke away from it. So this one has a stroke. If I take that off, I put transparent, then it makes it nice and sharp. So it just depends on how you want it to look, how tight you want it to be. I'm just going to slide this one back in here. All these ones on the edge are drawn with the polyline tool. So getting in there and experimenting, trying both is really going to help. For this project, because there are no restrictions on what you use, other than it just has to be black and white, I'm looking for a little bit more experimentation with it. So as I'm going in here and taking the stroke off of it, it doesn't get, the triangle loses its rounded edge. So I'm just going to walk you through one of them. I'm going to do one more 30% to review how to use the line tools and drawing shapes out of that. I know that it says this needs to be non-representational, which means abstract, but it's okay if some of these end up looking like something recognizable, because this, I kind of started thinking about a chain link right here and maybe lightning bolts here. That's okay. I could have even arranged this 50% one with circles to kind of start looking like a bug face. This one in the middle here was drawn with the polygon line tool, similar to how you did the cityscape. For this one up here on the right, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the curve line tool and how we can arrange a 30% white one with that one, so it'll be predominantly black. All right, so for the curve line tool that's up here, you select it. Oops. The frustrations of Google Draw. Okay, so once you get your crosshairs, now you can start drawing with it. So you click once, click again, and it will make the curve for you. Just going to make a random shape here, and then when I'm done, you hit the escape key and then it selects it for you, or you can go back up here and grab the select tool. The only problem is when you're in the line tool, if you're still in it and you go up here to grab your select tool, it'll make another big long line, which you won't want. So pressing the escape key helps. Then there's another little thing you can do. It's a right click or a control click if you have a Mac. And then you can do other things in here with it. Like you can rotate it. So you right click on it, you can rotate it, flip it horizontal, do whatever you want to it. But there's another thing you can do. You can bring up the what's called edit points, or that would be the points in Illustrator that you can edit. So again, that was a right click. If you select that, as you can see now, we have points that you can grab and do whatever you want to with it. Then you can do things like make it thicker, give it a dash. You can do all this stuff to it. It's like I said, there's no restrictions with this assignment. You can also give it points on the end if you want to, or an arrow, whatever it is that you want to do to it. So remember, this is the 30%. So let's take a look at it, and it doesn't quite look like it. It needs more black in it. So I have a random shape that I drew with the curve tool. Now I still have the curve tool, and I can go ahead and follow it. Now, for some reason in Google Draw, I've already clicked, but it didn't listen to me. So I had to do it again. Remember, you can only click once. I haven't figured out why, but sometimes it will stop that shape for you like it just did there. So you have to start over. I figured out that one way you can get it not to do that, let's say you've clicked once and it didn't work, it just kept going. If you right click, it'll save you, and then you can go back and keep drawing and not have to redo it. So I'm still using my curve tool, I'm clicking around, and I'll close this shape. Now I want this to match this one right here. It doesn't quite. And the default is that blue, so we just need to change it to black up here. Now what I can do is do that right click, edit points, and I can drag these so that they better match that shape. That just kind of gives me an interesting little doodle or whatever. This can be as abstract as you want. This is a great exercise to do or thing to try because of our assignments next week. So that's how that is, and now I can zoom out and see if it is the 30%. It's not. So I'm going to go ahead and make a couple more shapes. All right, so I have this going on. That's pretty close to a 30%. I broke it up into just random shapes. You can work like that. That's called working organically, where you just keep building, or you can plan it out like this middle one was. That's up to you. There's no restrictions for this, so you can plan it out any way you want, as long as you're just not plopping down one shape that covers 30%. I want to see some drawing, different shapes put together, possibly different patterns put together. That is up to you. Now for this one, I just wanted to show you a little bit of editing for it. I don't think some of these fit in here too well, so I'm going to go in